Hello. Recently passed a man who was considered as the most famous living man in the world. Indeed, Muhammad Ali died on June the 3rd, 2016. We have his chart on the screen, and the aim today is not to review all of his personality. I would rather do a simulation. Imagine that Ali came to me 1 year ago, say in June 2015, to consult me as an astrologer to make a prognosis of his health condition. I therefore examine transit, say the passages of the planets in the sky in relation to his natal chart. I want to show you the actual transits that are set by default at the present moment. So I just push here on T for transit, and we have the default transit. And if we push here, it's going to draw all the aspects, the transiting aspects. Move back in 2015 to the 1st of June, which will give us the complete transits of all the planets at that time. Here, just change here, 15, put 1 here, and here it is. I claim that examining the transits of the Sun only will be enough to describe his state of health, because the Sun here is the ruler of the Leo ascendant, and it's in the house 6. Moreover, we note that the Sun makes simultaneously a trine to Saturn and also below to a trine to Neptune, which does not typically pose a problem, but if we analyze from the perspective of cosmobiology, we realize that the Sun is exactly halfway between Neptune and Saturn, and we call this a direct midpoint. Let's see what that means in the interpretation panel of Mastro. We see that the Sun midpoint is often connected to chronic problems, depression, somatization, weakness, chronic disease. And this is quite surprising when you think of the athletic power of Ali. But we also know his fragility, which was expressed when he was prematurely struck by a terrible chronic disease, the Parkinson disease. Note also that the Sun is exactly halfway between Uranus and Neptune, indicating weakness, fragility, and sometimes epilepsy, which is also a neurological disease. To monitor his condition as simply as possible, we can limit ourselves to the transits to the Sun. To do that, we can change the environment by going to the tools here, and then to preferences, and finally to planets. The first column represents the inner ring, which is the natal chart. The second column represents the middle external ring for transits. I can uncheck all the planets to remove them and keep only the Sun, symbol of vitality, on the natal inner ring. For the transits, I remove the fast planet Moon, Mercury, Venus, etc. And I keep the slow planets Jupiter, Saturn to Pluto, including the lunar node, which is slow. I will bring back the Sun and Mars as triggers, operating on the slow transits. And I should, of course, not forget to remove the transiting ascendant and midheaven here. We see that everything is clean, and there's no more left in the natal chart than the Sun. We will now use another Mastro tool, an animation tool that allows us to move the transiting planets. Animation here, and I choose increments of 1 week. And I start the animation in automatic mode. We will stop only if we find something important. Nothing to be seen already. No. Here, sun opposed sun. It's only a trigger. I look for transits of outer planets. It's evolving and we still have nothing important. And as it goes on, we expect to have something heavier, more significant in connection with serious health problems. Therefore, we look for red aspects, like this one here. That is squares, oppositions, or conjunctions, but also 45 degrees, semi-squares, and sesqui-squares. And still nothing important. I still expect a slow planet. Here is a Saturn semi-square in January that could be harmful, but no trigger. Still see nothing. It's always moving in up, 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 up. We see that Neptune is approaching the semi-square to the sun at 11 degrees. If we take into account my orb, that is 1.3 degree. Stop. Here we have Neptune semi-square to sun and Jupiter sesqui-square to sun. Can we find more? Something more heavy. Let's start again. Just notice that Saturn is retrograde, and probably Saturn will go back to the 11 degrees position, and we possibly would have simultaneously two semi-square to the sun. Let's go. Here we see Saturn retrograde. That is, it's there. If we look at the signification here, interpretation, we see difficult thing for Saturn and Sun, and also weakness, disease for Neptune. Now we need a triggering effect of Sun or Mars. And I notice that we are very close to the death of Muhammad Ali. So I'll just reduce my increments to days, and I'll go now manually rather than automatically to go slowly. Let's go. We're expecting a trigger. Here it is. We see now that the sun is triggering the aspects of Neptune and Saturn, connected also by 135 degrees to the sun. So the natal sun simultaneously received three aspects, both Saturn and Neptune aspects, and at the same time the sun, which acts as a fast trigger. And look at the date, 1 of June, one day more, still there, 2 of June, about 24 hours before Ali's death. It's clear that it is at that very moment and not before that his health deteriorated the most seriously. It's absolutely amazing that in connection with the sun, the current transits reproduce a natal structure. In the natal chart, we saw that the sun was midpoint between Saturn and Neptune by 2 trigons, which denoted chronic illness, and that now in the sky of early June 2016, one finds a similar symmetric configuration with exactly the same midpoint Saturn-Neptune on the sun, connected by semi-square. And thus we find the same description in the interpretation panel. Let's have a look here. Weakness, fragility, loss of disease, depression, concern, renunciation, etc. Suffering. Ultimately, it's quite impressive that on June the 2nd exactly happened among all the aspects and all the days examined, what we can consider as surely the heaviest configuration affecting the sun. It's over. This presentation was relatively conventional because actually the clock that was running was a bit like our fingers running over the ephemeris. But we could consider all that with a completely different approach. And I look forward to present you another predictive tool of Mastro in the near future. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation, and I see you soon.